Hi, this is Beth Azor, and this is my podcast, I Own a Shopping Center, Now What? So I had a call today with a friend from Twitter, a follower, and he is buying a new shopping center. And we talked about two things that I'm going to talk about today on the podcast. One is if there are a lot of month-to-month tenants, which ones should he renew first and why? So that was an easy answer for me. I want him, and I would want you all, to take a look and see which of the tenants have significant infrastructure. For example, a drive-through coffee, an Italian restaurant, a hair salon, a medical facility like a doctor, a dentist, and urgent care. Because even if they're month to month and they're paying below rent, so let's say the market's 20 and they're paying 12, you raise them to 18, they're not moving out in the middle of the night. They cannot because of the amount of investment they have in their space. So you want to get those people done first so that by the time you get around to the boutiques, the insurance offices, the gyms, people that don't have a lot of infrastructure that could move out in the middle of the night, you can say to them, well, I've got 4 other tenants that renewed with me, join the team here. So you want to do that. You also would love to put them on a new lease if they're month to month, create a new great document, which does not have grace periods, definitely has late fees for late rent, appropriate assignment provisions, sales reporting, all that stuff. And you want to have a confidentiality clause on the rents, not that they ever abide by those because all tenants talk. But, what I say to people is not everyone's going to pay $25 a square foot. The pizza guy might pay 32, the bike store might pay 21. It's really about margins. So don't think that just because your neighbor next door signed a lease at 23, you're going to pay 23. You might have to pay 27. Or if I love you and you bring something to the table, maybe you would pay less. So definitely renew the tenants that have infrastructure first because they're less likely to move out, even if you charge them an extra $5 or $10 a square foot. And then the next question he asked me was about property managers and property management. And I said to him, well, property management is about 2 things. Property managers need to deal with physical and financial. Now, some property owners have accountants that deal with the financials or the financial piece. But as far as I'm concerned, when I'm running my properties, managing my properties, physical means the shopping center's clean, the sidewalk is pressure cleaned, the lights don't have cobwebs, the lights are operating and working. You guys know I do light checks almost every week because it's such a liability. Just the physical is that kind of stuff. The garbage dumpsters in the back are not overflowing. And I don't do sweeping. I haven't done sweeping in probably 30 years because my centers are so small. I mean, if I had a huge center like a Costco, Home Depot center, then I probably would have a sweeping contract. But with my centers being so small, less than 50,000 square feet, my porter can get the garbage in the parking lot. So that's physical. Financial is obviously paying the bills, creating budgets, but most importantly, you know what I'm going to say, collecting the rent. We still send statements around the 20th of the month. And there are times where I will go into a tenant's space if they haven't paid. Nowadays, we can just text, hey, it's the 3rd, you haven't paid, is there a problem? I told you guys I get a delinquency report on the 10th. Rarely do I have anyone on it. Right now, in all of my 4 shopping centers, I have one, it's October 6th, and I have one that is behind. This person has had some medical issues with a child, so I'm giving her some grace, but that's the only person that is behind in rent on October 6th. So property management, I think, is physical and financial, and those are And then he said, well, what would you do if you were interviewing a property manager? And I said, I would take them to the property, I would walk them around, and I would ask them to tell me 10 things that they observe about the property. And then I would have them sit down and I would ask them questions. Where in the lease would you find this? And I would hand them my lease and see if they could flip through a lease and figure out where the issues were, or where the answers were in the lease of the questions I was asking, because they can't freeze up in front of a 40-page document, because that's the Bible of the property, and they need to be able to find the answers in the Bible. So I hope that was helpful. Thanks to my friend who asked me these questions that helped me give you content. Have a great week, everyone. Hey, listeners of I Own a Shopping Center, Now What? We have done some research and we have found out that 92% of the listeners are men in the ages of 50 to 70. So what I wanted to do is shout out to all of you. Thank you for listening. But I wanted to shout out to all of you. If you have a wife or a sister or a daughter, I have a conference every year in March called the Women's Real Estate Investment Summit. There are 250 women that attend, and probably 75% of them are investors in all kinds of different asset classes. We've had women that are fix and flippers, women that have invested in storage, hospitality, student housing, of course, retail, and you name it, senior living, multiple different asset classes, car wash funds. And the women in the room, what I do is I interview women that are investors, and then those women go into breakout rooms and do like a deep dive on how they underwrite their deals, multifamily, etc. And a lot of the women in the room have started investing with each other, which is great, which is helping my goal and mission of getting more women to invest in commercial real estate. But if you have a wife, a daughter, a sister, a mother, that maybe you want them to learn a little bit more about the industry, or maybe they're running your properties with you, have them come. It's March 4th through the 6th. We opened registration last week. We've already sold over 50% of the tickets. I highly predict that we will be sold out by year end. Maybe this would be a great holiday present for the woman in your life. So think about it. You can find out all of the information on bethazor.com. Just scroll down to the summit and you can read all about it there. It is life-changing for the women who attend. At least that's what all the testimonials tell me. And this will be our 6th year. So we've really honed it in and figured it out. So would love to see the ladies in your lives come and meet me and talk about real estate investing. Ciao.